Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction and Roofing. If you need an orthopedist, go to Brock. If you need a roof, you call Parish. Unique Physique, uniquephysique.com, Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com. As always, appreciate y'all for being there with us. So, we're heading to Pensacola today for Drew's cardiology appointment. So I will not be on AFR today or tomorrow. Musa will be on AFR. So we'll drive this afternoon and then to Pensacola, sleep. We'll have the first appointment in the morning and then drive back. So no Scone on AFR today. We're also just no real time limits. I do have the parish marketing meeting at 9 a.m. Parish construction and roofing. So okay, y'all. How about it? LSU National Signing Day. Um, I think sometimes with signing day, we so much tend to focus on who you didn't get instead of who you did. Um, I'll never fix that. I just know that that's a symptom of darn near every fan base, except maybe the class that finished number one overall. Uh, It's true. Like, there's probably more people yesterday talking about Bryce Underwood, Cade Phillips, and Jakeem Stewart than DJ Pickett, who we've pined over for months, hoping, praying, wishing he didn't flip, and you got it across the finish line. Harlan Berry, solidly committed, number one running back in the country, kid from New Orleans. You kept him on board all along, and you go on signing day and you flip a five-star offensive lineman from Florida State and Solomon Thomas, which that's a huge get, man. Solomon Thomas and Carius Kern, two of the best interior offensive linemen in the country. And you need help on your offensive line. That much was abundantly clear. And those are two guys who, here moving forward are going to be able to help you. You're losing both guards. I'm not saying you want to go into the next year with two freshmen starting guards, but could those guys contribute next year? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, a good day, man. You finished with the top 10 class and, you hit a lot of needs. And maybe most importantly is, man, while you would have loved to have seen Bryce Underwood, Jakeem Stewart, Cade Phillips in this class. And that's true. You also are perfectly fine. Well, let me not say perfectly fine. With their decisions to leave, or LSU's decisions to walk away because of the finances, which we can get into. I know a lot of people have asked me about that, and I've talked about it pretty openly. You had that money allocated for those players, and I told you, you had 1.5 for Bryce Underwood. You went up to 1.25 for Jakeem Stewart, and I'll tell you, went up to 1.25 because about 3 weeks ago, I was told the number they were at for Jakeem. It was like, I can't remember if it was like 850 or like 895. It was something like that. It was in the eights about 3 weeks ago, the number that they were on for Jakeem Stewart. And ultimately, it just kept going up. And they kept going up. And they got to 1.25 till they said, all right, like it's just. But the point being, the 1.5 for Bryce, the 1.25 for Jakeem Stewart, the $800K they had in for Cade Phillips. Like, that's all money now that you have it, in your coffers to go spend in the portal. And every time I talk about this, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that Brian Kelly's flipping his approach of build through the high school, supplement through the portal. You're still building through the high school ranks. But when you have bags of cash, the caliber of portal target you can go after changes. Excuse me. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying go get 20 guys in the portal. I'm saying stick with your 7 to 10 guys in the portal, but make it 7 to 10 impact guys in the portal. Go get impact starters, not just bodies at positions you need. Okay, y'all. A couple other things. Slade Nagel headed to Houston, LSU's tight ends coach. Have a Locked On podcast. It's probably live right now. I think, yeah, it is live right now. Kind of working through the scenario, possibly bringing Tommy Rees back to Baton Rouge. Remember, Slade Nagel's tight ends coach. Tommy Rees is currently the tight ends coach with Cleveland Browns. Brian Kelly wanted to hire Tommy Rees here in Baton Rouge whenever he got the job in 2022. Rees stayed in South Bend and for one more year, then went to Alabama for a year. Nick Saban retired. Now Tommy Rees is with the Browns. So watch out for that. Again, I'm just connecting dots. That's speculative on my part. I'm being honest. That is speculative on my part. I'm just connecting dots. And then Jalen Reed. We got the news. Jalen Reed torn ACL. So it's a big blow for the LSU basketball team, man. It's junior, 6'10", 240. It's one of your big body guys. Was averaging 11 and 6 so far this year. And you're going to rely much more now on Corey Chest and Damian Collins and Derek Fountain. So onward. We'll see. All right, let's say some good mornings here. Trivia, good morning. Pat Huseman, Brett DeGrow, good morning. Brian, good morning. Whatever happened to Plucker? So I did mention it yesterday on AFR. Yeah, Plucker's closed. Steve Levy, my guy, the king of the wing, was ready to do something different. He's run Pluckers. He opened Pluckers the first one by campus in 2003. So for 21 years. And he was 23 years old when he opened it. So for the last 21 years of his life, he's been the king of the wing, slinging chicken wings. And he's an operator that every day works on and in his business. He didn't just hire people to go run it. He's got great people that work there, but he was ready to do something different. So there's a lot that went into it with the people, like with the corporate at Pluckers. But anyway, bottom line is he wanted to do something different. It didn't close because they were failing or what. I mean, they're fine. He just wanted to do something different. So, Brad David, good morning. Taro Walker, Michael Thacker, which SEC DB were you talking about? Okay, yeah, thank you, Michael. I will mention that now because a lot of people have asked me that. So it was Anquan Fagans from Auburn who did sign with Auburn yesterday. And I'll tell you how why that came with. I'll provide as much detail as I can. And looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have. I shouldn't have said what I said on air. I got the text while I was on air, and I stopped like mid-sentence on AFR, and I said to Moose, "Oh, this might be like a Schefter text," which I was joking. But then you say that, and I'm like, "Oh, I can't." Now just floated that out there. Now what do you do with your audience? It's bad form to have something inside. Anyway, bottom line is there was an LSU staff member who was aggressively pursuing, and not. By the way, when I say staff member, remember there's a giant LSU football staff, and not just the on-field assistants, but there's a whole recruiting staff and everything. There's an LSU staff member that was still pursuing Fagans to the very end, and they were very close to the flip and needed money and approached one of my partners at Parrish. Remember, there's 5 of us who were equity partners at Parrish about kicking in money, and we agreed to the dollar amount that was supposed to get it over the finish line, which is why. So, I mean, that was Monday afternoon. And so look, if Anquan Fagans walked in my front door, I wouldn't have a clue who he was. But so I'm not telling you I had any deep level. Whatever. It's just, I mean, we're talking about Parrish doing a deal, like to actually write a check to get that done. And so I don't know what happened yesterday. It was supposed to go down yesterday, and ultimately he picked Auburn and stayed with Auburn. So maybe Auburn up the ante. I don't know, but again, that's my fault for not being more restrained in that moment. But it was Fagans, and the reason I was willing to say it is because I mean, we were writing a check that was supposed to be the final amount he needed to come. So then maybe Auburn up the ante. I don't know. So maybe I'll find out today. But it was Fagans. It was Anquan Fagans. And it goes to show you, like, there's a lot of times that stuff goes to the last moment. I shouldn't say anymore. But I think we've all learned that lesson, especially with Underwood, if you didn't know it already. But there are times where, man, you feel really good about something. And I'm not saying I did. I'm giving you a singular perspective, just knowing that what I was told was they need X to get this done for Fagans. And I was like, hey, my decision, whatever. But anyway, but Parrish was in. And we've done, there are people on LSU's recruiting staff that have done a really good job of approaching business owners for NIL opportunities to help. Like Duplessis is a great example of that. Duplessis Builders, one of my sponsors, did an NIL deal with Kyron Lacey and Harlan Berry. Now, these aren't break the bank deals, but they're the type of deals that keep cash flow coming. And a lot of times for recruits, it gets them cash up front before they get to campus and start their rev share. Does that make sense? So if a business does an NIL deal with a current commit or recruit, they get that money now, as opposed to waiting to the fall when rev share goes into effect and they get paid. They can get money now. So LSU staff has done a really good job at approaching business on that, and at Parrish we've done some of that. So look, Kim Mulkey's on the homepage of our website. If you haven't noticed, there's a video of Kim Mulkey giving a Parrish endorsement on the homepage of parrishbuilt.com. So anyway, so that was it. But thank you for asking. And, that's recruiting. Trey, what up, Fish? Kelly Gross, Jason H. New kicks. It's been a couple of weeks. So, I guess relatively new kicks. I did get some the orange and black and white dunks from Ruckus. Good time to wear it tomorrow with Catholic playing Edna Carr for a trip to the Dome. Bubba Smith, Brett Gidry, RIP Pluckers. I'm going to miss it, man. Was Meadows a shocker? About as shocking as me waking up bald today. We all knew Meadows was I told y'all that the meeting I had about 3 weeks ago, Meadows was, for those who don't know, Derek Meadows is a receiver who had committed to LSU. He flipped to Alabama. Meadows, and this isn't a Bama's burning thing. It's nothing like that. So Meadows, he was thought to be a Notre Dame lean, and he committed to LSU several months back. And then LSU had an NIL deal, which was a nice deal. It wasn't, he was middle of the class. I'll put it to you that way. Like probably like smack dab in the middle of the class. And he kept pushing for more money, and LSU was like, no. My understanding, and look, the next time I see Derek Meadows play a football game, will be the first time I see Derek Meadows play a football game. I can just tell you what the evaluation was, that he's 6'6", was a tall guy. He was a really good athlete, but is not a great receiver. Doesn't have great hands, not really a great route runner sort of thing. Just a tall, athletic guy who needs to develop a bit. And that's okay. He may end up being a great player. But Brian Kelly talked about this at his press conference. It's not that you don't want the player, but you just have to, with every player, decide how they exist relative to your cap. So if you say this guy is worth X, but another team is desperate for a receiver, they're willing to pay more. It's not that you don't value this player. It's just that they are desperate for a receiver, and so they're going to overpay. And that's what happened with that. If you're Caleb Cunningham is a 5-star receiver that flipped from Alabama to Ole Miss, so they were pretty desperate for a receiver. So they overpaid for Derek Meadows. Happens. It happened to Bama as well. I told y'all. And so this isn't a Bama's burning thing. They had 2 players a couple weeks ago that left their class for Nebraska. Same thing. Guys that were just in the middle of Alabama's class, and Nebraska overpaid for them. It happened with Devin Harper. Devin Harper is the offensive lineman that was committed to LSU from Calvary Baptist. LSU already had Karis Kern committed in the class. They had Tyler Miller committed in the class. And Devin Harper, you went and got you have 5-star Weston Davis, you got Tyree Adams. And so Devin Harper was in your class. Well, Ole Miss is losing a lot on their line. They're pretty desperate. So they went and overpaid for Devin Harper. So he flipped. Like, it's just how do you, it's why it's hard to be financially disciplined. It was my whole take yesterday. Fiscal responsibility isn't easy, but it's necessary to have success. And LSU showed a lot of restraint, not overpaying for guys. And look at what they landed with. A consensus top 10 class. I think in the composite, they're number 8. You have 3 5-stars. Kern may end up being a 5-star, which would bump you to 4 5-stars. You hit a lot of needs. You got the best cornerback in the country who's a plug-and-play guy. You get the best running back in the country. I mean, you get two players number 1 at their position in the country. It's incredible. So, again, we focus so much on what you didn't get. If you take a step back and look at what you did, it's pretty incredible. And then you flipped a 5-star offensive lineman on signing day. So, anyway. Jeremy Sagely, good morning. Official Friday, what happened with Jacoby Matthews? He's not playing football this year. As I understand it, when Mike Elko went into A&M, Jacoby maybe had a tough time with that transition, didn't really conform. And so whether he left the team or was dismissed, I don't know all the particulars there. But that's from my friends that cover A&M when I asked about it. And because it was in the spring portal window, he couldn't transfer to an SEC school because it was the spring portal window. So he didn't play football this year. So I have no idea if he intends on playing football next year or what the future will. I have no idea about any of that. Thomas, good morning. Great to be a Tiger fan. Safe in Pensacola. Thanks, man. Quick trip. Hunter, can't wait to see who we get in the portal. Hunter, I want to be clear. Thank you for bringing that up. I want to bring this up too. Because every time I say, okay, to go ham in the portal, you have this money to go spend in the portal. I'm not telling you that LSU is going to go get the number 1 portal class in the country. What I'm saying is that's their approach, and I'm willing to see how it plays out. Just to be clear, that's where I am with it. Hey, Rocky, contrary to many LSU fans are saying, what a great early signing class. Future is bright. It's the hardest thing to do, man. It's the hardest thing for fans to do. Look at who you got instead of who you didn't. Elijah, more to Matt, heck of a class. Number 1 DB, number 1 running back, number 2 and 4 interior offensive lineman, number 5 and 9 linebacker. Like you said, on Locked On, 3.5 million reasons to be happy about the transfer portal. Yes, I mean, if you look at the money that you had allocated for Underwood and by the way, Elijah, that's money in addition to what you already have allocated for the portal. So, I mean, the way that think of it like an NFL salary cap, right? Brian Kelly used the term yesterday, or used the number. He kind of flippantly threw it out, 13 million, 13.5 million, whatever it is. So let's say you have $13 million to spend on your roster as part of rev share. Well, LSU, what they've done is, this would be Austin Thomas and as the GM, Brian Kelly and Frank Wilson, all. They sat down, they looked at the total number they have to spend, and then they've allocated it by position and then by player within that position group, right? So like 15% to quarterbacks, 20% to offensive line, 22% to defense, or whatever it is, right? By position. And then you break it down who in that position group gets how much of that dollar amount. Well, part of that already, and I know this, so I've seen it with my own two eyes. Part of that already is portal guys, like elite portal defensive lineman, elite portal safety, or just like portal tight end or whatever it is, right? So they have a dollar amount fixed already to those players they're looking to go get at those positions. Well, now you've added $3 million you had allocated for other players that you can now allocate into the portal if you need it to make sure you land some of the guys you're after. So look, man, if they don't have a bunch of portal wins, that is more of a red flag to me than walking away from the Jakeem Stewart sweepstakes when USC went to $2 million. Okay. Randy, you have any insight on CJ Daniels? I don't. Honestly, Randy, big L for LSU. Honestly, Randy, I don't know. The last 2 days, obviously, were so heavily focused on early signing day. So I'm sure we'll switch now back into portal mode. Who's leaving? Who are you potentially targeting? All that stuff. Staff with Slade Nagel heading to Houston to be the OC. But but I don't know about Daniels yet, but I will. I'll find out. Jacob, seeing talk on social media, a lot of teams saying they're going ham in the portal. Does LSU funds to compete in the portal to go get who they want? Just kind of talked about that. Hey, Brian, good morning. Let's see. They couldn't hold on to a great class, good cycle, not compare what it could have been. Again, that's kind of the mindset of like focusing on who you didn't get instead of who you did, and you're never going to get everybody. It's all in how you look at it. Sean, always good to get the big uglies on the O&D line. Save and dominate with those positions. You did load up. You loaded up a defensive tackle with guys that Bo Davis wanted, and I think you've got some really good development pieces. Zion Williams, Brandon Brown, Dylan Battle. You've got to go. You have got to go in the transfer portal and get impact interior defensive linemen. Like, you've got Jacoby Guillory coming back next year, which is awesome. You've got Don McKinley, a year older, very likely starter, looked really good the other day. It's awesome. Ahmad Bro gave you really good snaps as a freshman this year. He'll take a next step. But you've got to go in the portal and get an impact interior defensive lineman. So you can have a rotation on that interior. And there's not a giant drop off. Eric, good morning. Could you go over what top tier NIL looks like in basketball and baseball to help frame yesterday? How much less do we spend on basketball per player? So maybe the most important thing to remember there, Eric, is you're talking about much smaller rosters. Okay. And there's no player on the LSU basketball or baseball team, as I understand it, that's getting a $1.25 million offer. I was told this LSU basketball team, the roster, they've got about $3 million in the roster. Now, remember, this is also before revenue share. This is still NIL collective for this year's LSU men's basketball team. Next year, rev share comes into factor, so we'll see how that changes. But as I understand it, they're spending about double on this year's basketball team than they did a year ago. Baseball, like women's basketball with Kim, are a little different because what they've done is, instead of just relying on the collective, I think Jay and Kim have gone and like pounded the pavements. I think Matt McMahon's done that a bit too, actually. They've gone and pounded the pavements to go fundraise for their sport. Like, if Kim Mulkey needs a player, she knows the 5 people to call to say, I need to raise X for this player. Same with Jay Johnson. Tiger Diver, Quentin Brakebill, Alabama greatest. Okay. That's the same guy. Okay. By the way, actually, um, so Alabama greater than LSU in every way, except for the fact that LSU didn't lose to Vanderbilt or Oklahoma. Patrick, morning, Matt. Hats off to Brian Kelly's staff for signing the class he did yesterday. Got to hit the portal, take no prisoners. Austin, good morning. Yesterday went as well as we could have realistically hoped. I know you hate politics. Maybe LSU can teach fiscal responsibility to Congress. Could we go get Jackson Arnold? Sean, I don't know. My guess, so Jackson Arnold, the Oklahoma quarterback, former 5-star, hit the portal yesterday. My guess is he's going to look for somewhere where he can go be a starter. If Nussmeier comes back, then he's probably not looking at LSU. And if Nussmeier leaves, I don't know that Jackson Arnold is my answer at quarterback. Gary, good morning. Rick, love this class. Got stronger in the trenches, both sides of the ball. Got some dudes to keep positions. Good news, the LSU coaches are not finished. Can't wait to see the additions out of the portal. That's the key, Rick. I mean, let's see what they do in the next month. You're going to hear me say that a million times. You're going to get sick of hearing me say it. Let me see what you do in the next month. If you go in the portal and you add 7 to 10 impact guys, awesome. You go with these bags of cash to spend in the portal and you miss like you did last year on those defensive linemen, and you come out with just guys, I'm going to feel decidedly different about LSU in 2025. Hey, Weston, good morning. August, good morning, Matt. Side note, the guy told you you're rude to Drew. Thanks for your great pointed, educated takes and info. Thank you, man. Abner Neal, good morning. Rocky, not a fan of overpaying for high school recruits for guys like Keelan Moses. Want them to love LSU, not just a paycheck. Yeah, I know a lot of people were asking about Keelan. Even on social media, they were like, some people were like, oh, he's going A&M. Like, he took a visit. I have no problem whatsoever with any player ever taking visits. If you're in a situation where, in whatever you do in life, where someone's going to pay for your way to go take a visit somewhere, to see something new, to have an experience, to go with your friends, of course. Keelan Moses was never going anywhere. It was funny when I started to see that a little bit. Like, had somebody message me, was like, Keelan Moses said, "You high with a Texas A&M backpack." So they probably gave him that on his visit for free, and it's probably cool and he liked it. So we don't frame things in the way that a high school kid would frame something. We think of it as an adult. Like, you've got to remember, these are still young people. Ryan, to be honest, I'll forever be more concerned about Hankton getting a promotion than Meadows or any other wide receiver flipping. Couldn't live with myself if LSU's wide receiver becomes what Georgia is without him. Ryan, so back to my two things can be true. I think Cortez Hankton can be a really good coach, and LSU's receiver room can be fine without him. Because remember, LSU's receiver room has been fine for a long time before him. Now, he's done a great job, and I'm not denying that at all. But LSU will be fine. Let's see if we hit the impact players off the portal along with this class, and Nuss returning will be in the playoffs. That should be the expectation. Tiger Poppy, good morning. Big day yesterday. Did you get any sleep? Yeah. I went to bed about midnight and got up at 6:30. So, yeah, good night's sleep. I recorded 2 locked ons last night. I recorded my signing day recap, and then I recorded the one that for this morning with the Slade Nagel news, Tommy Reese, and Jalen Reed. Morning, Matt. I don't know if it's been asked. Yep, talked about Jacoby a bit ago. He was not on a roster this year. Did not play college football this year. Dalton, how revenue sharing work next year? Is this an NIL cap? So a lot of people keep asking this, and I did talk about it yesterday in AFR. So revenue share and NIL are completely different. Okay? And please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Shout out to all of our sponsors here. They're linked in the description on YouTube and tagged on Facebook. So, and by the way, Drew was feeling sick, and we're driving to Pensacola for cardiology, so I don't have to jump. He's sleeping, so we're letting him sleep this morning, just as long as he needs to sleep. He was feeling a little not great last night, so um, anyway, so I'll try to explain this as simply as I can. Okay, NIL is is transactional where there's a deliverable. Okay, so meaning business pays player in exchange for a deliverable. And I know we think of NIL as pay for play, which it is, but there are deliverables. For example, if you look at Bayou Traditions, let's go to Bayou Traditions is the LSU website, just for example. Okay. So Bayou Traditions website, let's see if you go to shop. There are I'm trying to see if there are specific player, like sometimes, for example, if you donate to Bayou Traditions, maybe you get a signed football or a poster or something like that. That would be a deliverable. Um, I hear Drew. I was hoping he would sleep. Um, every year the football team, at the end of fall camp, goes to the food bank. Um, that's a deliverable as well. So that's an NIL has become an organized effort with collectives, right? Where collectives fundraise and then they distribute the money that's fundraised. Um, and there's no cap on that, right? I mean, you can't cap NIL. If there were ever an effort to cap NIL, you'd immediately have lost. Like I remember July 1st, 2021, when NIL went live, I asked attorney David Fleshman that question. And Fleshman has done a lot of NIL law. And he said the lawsuits are already drawn. If anyone ever tries to cap NIL, it goes to court immediately. So you can't cap NIL. Revenue share. This is part of the. Hey. Hey, can you get him? He's awake. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. To be continued. Let me go get Drew out of bed real quick. Hang on one second. Okay. Sorry. So so revenue share is completely different. With the House settlement, remember there was a lawsuit of the former athletes suing for like the big class action lawsuit. Part of the settlement opened the door for revenue share. So revenue sharing is just what it sounds. Athletic departments individually will have the option to share their revenue with the student athletes. So I'll use LSU. LSU last year did 200 million in revenue. It was like 479 million in 2023. The settlement allows for LSU to share up to $20.5 million, or any school to share up to $20.5 million of their revenue with their student athletes. Now, the haves, of course, are going to share all that max number. The problem is with a lot of programs, they can't share $20 million. So they're not going to be able to spend as much as the haves. LSU will spend the $20.5 million. And it's that number for the first 2 years. I think then it goes up 4% between years 2 and 3, and then they reassess for year 4. Hi. Good morning. Go this way. Yeah. Okay. I thought you'd sleep late today. You want to come say hi to Dad show? Okay. So now the thing people have asked is, with revenue share, does that do away with NIL? True NIL, no. Like if I with Parrish wanted to go do an NIL deal with Garrett Nussmeier, I could still approach him and we could do an NIL deal with Garrett Nussmeier. What the NCAA would like to see happen, many people would like to see happen, with the advent of revenue share, is that collectives are dissolved. So you stop the aggressive fundraising through collectives and pay for play, which makes it more of an even situation. Now, the skeptics out there, and you and I both know, that the schools that have been aggressive in fundraising and spending aren't going to take that line down. They're still going to find ways to use NIL to supplement rev share. What a lot of people think might happen is, because the student athletes are going to be making so much through rev share, it won't necessitate the giant dollar amounts that NIL has brought. So a lot of this is going to be building the bridge as you cross it, seeing how it all plays out. But I hope that's a good explanation of the difference between NIL and revenue share. One other thing to consider is the NIL dollars are not the rev share dollars, and rev share starts this summer. So what you're seeing is a lot of collectives that have not commitments, but actual dollars in the bank, like not commitments of donations and contributions, but actual dollars in the bank. They are dumping that cash now because there's ambiguity about how or whether or not they'll be able to spend it come July 1. So there's a lot of opinions that you'll see more money spent between now and July 1 from these collectives than in the previous 3 years of NIL, like combined, because everybody's just going to empty their coffers here these next 6 months. So just something to keep an eye on. I hope that helps. I know that's a lot, but I hope that explains somewhat. Let's see, Taro. Tommy Rees will rise as a new coach to put pressure on Sloan. Of course. But I want to be clear, that's totally speculative. With Reed tearing his ACL, does that rush Trades to the basketball team out? Good question. No. Remember, Trades is still a football scholarship athlete, so football will be his focus and priority. Gary, thank you, man. Randall, how much did it cost to get Pickett? The number I was told on DJ Pickett was $850K. So put that into perspective. You got the number one cornerback in America for $850K, guy you desperately, desperately, desperately wanted. And Jakeem Stewart was at $2 million for USC. You went to 125 for Jakeem Stewart. Like, come on. Sure thing, man. You got it. Leon, Big Easy. Hey, Dad. Good morning. William, good morning. Enjoyed your article yesterday. Agree wholeheartedly. Thank you, man. If y'all want to go read it over at Louisiana Sports, and I got a column basically talking about the fiscal responsibility LSU used in this class, and I think they made the right decisions, and I think they built a great class. And as a result of being fiscally responsible and not being ridiculous with Jakeem Stewart and willing to walk away, same with Cade Phillips, now you have even deeper pockets in the portal. Now you have to go spend it. Leon, updates on Ramchick. Yeah, I haven't heard any updates. I mean, it sure feels like he's going to retire. Philip, good morning. Watched Locked On last night. Was just wondering if there's a situation where football gets 13 million, baseball gets 5, but once more, how would that work out? So, that's when a coach would have to go, certainly for like true NIL to fundraise. So, like, by the way, I don't think baseball is getting $5 million. So what he's alluding to is, so I just told you it's 20.5 million for revenue share. So the number's 20.5 million. That's what it's estimated to be. Football doesn't get all 20.5. That 20.5 is distributed among all your sports: football, basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics, soccer, like all of it. So football is going to get the lion's share, the most gigantic piece of the pie, naturally. But we'll start to get out. And the one thing that's going to be interesting, y'all, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people too, is because that's there's like, go this way. Every year Tiger Ag does the money issue. And so they show you how every dollar is spent, like every salary and everything in the athletic department, how all the money spent. Because it's a public institution, so all that's public record. By that logic, that should also, the revenue share with student athletes should also be public record. So we should know publicly what all these players make at public universities. Brett, do we know LSU's opponents are for next season? Yeah, man, it's same SEC schedule, just flipped. The home and away is just flipped. So you're playing all the same 8 SEC teams, just flipping home and away. Bradley, good morning. JTL, good morning. Ben, good morning. Which position groups you think the staff will target in the portal? Safety, defensive tackle. Now you got to keep in mind also, there's like elite portal target and then depth in the portal. So like they want an elite safety. They want an elite defensive tackle. They need a blocking tight end, probably depth at linebacker. I think they want to go get a running back. They want an elite level game breaking wide receiver. So it's a lot of positions, but it's a difference in like, are you going for a top player in the portal or someone to give you depth and a rotational type guy? Brad, how long was Pluckers a sponsor? Steve Levy was literally, I told the story in AFR yesterday, it was literally the first person ever to sponsor one of my shows back in 2007. Josh Ennis and I were doing the fastest hour, and Steve Levy was literally the first sponsor I ever had in anything ever. So I have tremendous loyalty to Steve. He's a great friend of mine too. I mean, he's like, we've been kind of came up in all this together. I mean, he was, we were Steve's, let's see. I think Steve's a year older than me. I'm 42. I think he's 43. So so Steve was 20. See, 03 when he opened Pluckers. He would have been, I was 21. So he'd have been 22. He'd been 22 years old when he opened Pluckers. So, I mean, we came up and he, like, that dude, you understand, like, he was there when I was doing Josh and I were doing a 1-hour show in 2007. And now you fast forward, it's been a long time, man, but come a long way, man. Long way. Let's see. Is it really fiscal responsibility or about fiscal ability, meaning a school can only afford what it can afford regardless of a kid's market value? I think there's truth to both of that. It's a really good question. Like, if you have a Larry Ellison that's worth $250 billion and his wife loves Michigan, and so here's a $12 million check to get a quarterback, that's awesome. Congratulations. But truthfully, the amount of programs that can do that, that's a really short list. And while it feels not great, it's also not often you're going to run up against that. The Underwood thing was very high profile. The Jakeem Stewart thing is very high profile. I don't know, seriously, if there's another one like that in the country in this cycle. It just so happened that there's two of them that were associated with LSU's class, which goes to show how elite LSU's class was and who they were targeting at the top and all that stuff. And you go take your swing. But it's like the Dodgers. The Dodgers can spend whatever there's no salary cap in baseball. The Dodgers can spend whatever they want. Dodgers, let's see. Payroll in 24, Mets $314 million. How did that work out for the Mets? The Mets spent more money than anyone in baseball, $314 million. How did that work out for them this year? The Yankees were second at 308, made it to the World Series. Then the Astros were third at 255, bounced in the wild card. Then the Phillies at 246. But again, look at the difference. You know, the Dodgers were fifth at $240 million. Braves, Cubs, Rangers, 225. I mean, look at a team like San Diego. San Diego's payroll is 170. It's roughly half of the Mets. San Diego's in the 15th, middle of the pack in Major League Baseball. They have just built their roster knowing we're not going to spend $315, but how can we take 170 and build the best roster possible? Well, that takes discipline. So, but the reality is the Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, they're the outliers. So like Michigan, Texas, Southern Cal, SMU, by the way, they're the outliers. And how often are they going to be willing to go spend like that on a player? Like any of those teams could have gone and done that for DJ Pickett, didn't. You want to go spend $100 million on a roster? You could do it. They didn't. It's different when you're talking about like an 85-man, soon to be 105-man roster. Hey, Brett, does seem like we could have maybe extended for Cade Phillips, but they did. That's the thing. Like, Brett, they already went up for Cade Phillips from where they were. And you get to a point where you're like, this isn't worth any more against our cap. Like, you get to that point where you walk away. Because, like, if you say, all right, we go up to $1 million, what's to say that Texas wouldn't have said, okay, we'll go to 1-2? Then where does it stop? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have the point. This is true. Like, if I see this, dude, I see this all the time because I MC these auctions, and like, I MC charity auctions all the time, and it never fails, man. You have these charity events, it's auctions, and you'll have these people going at it, and it's like you're going up by $100 increments. And like someone may have had in their mind they were going to spend $5,000 on this thing. Well, in their head, they're going, all right, I'll spend $5,000. And someone bids 51, they go, God, what's 200? All right, 52. And somebody goes 55. And you go, eh. And so you go, man, 52 and 55, it's just $300 difference. Yeah, but you only wanted to spend 5, and now you're at 52. And if you go to 55, they're probably going to 57 or maybe 6. And where does it stop? So you have to be able to say, that's enough. I mean, I told you 3 weeks ago, LSU was at 875, I believe, for Jakeem Stewart. They landed at 125. They went up. Let's see. I mean, they went up nearly $500,000. They went up nearly $500,000 in 3 weeks for Jakeem Stewart. At some point, you have got to walk away. You've got to say, nope, we're done. Otherwise, where does it stop? Matt, I think another thing to keep in mind is talent at LSU recruited that went other places. Some, if not most, will probably hit the portal at some point, could be in a good spot. That's something Shea Dixon, hat tip Shea Dixon, he said this forever. He said, one of his takes is it's never been more important to finish second in recruiting than it is right now. Because with the portal, guys can leave. And if you have a great relationship with a player from their high school recruitment, if it doesn't work out with there, they hit the portal and you have a spot. If that relationship's there, you can always maybe bring them back. All right, please smash the like button if you would, subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. My concern is player development. There's still talent on the team like Tylen Singleton. Very true. Brian, any report if Emory will return? I believe he will not. The latest intel that I have is that Emory Jones is not going to return. That could change. He's got a month still to make that decision, but I think Emory Jones is going to end up going to the draft. Jeff, good morning. You replace, they're going to get a wide receiver in the portal. Gregory, Ben Giat, how soon do we hear about Nuss and Taylor? Yeah, good question. Remember, the portal window opens Monday. And so teams are going to have to know, even if those guys don't declare their intention right away, internally you'll have to know, because you're going to have to know what your needs are in the portal, right? And that starts Monday. So Campbell's declared. The fact that nobody else has declared, I think, is a good sign. But Campbell was obvious. But if not this weekend, early next week as the portal window opens, I think is when you'll start to see more declarations of what guys are planning to do. Gregory, do you see any of the signees possible start from day one? DJ Pickett. I mean, if DJ Pickett's not on the field day one against Clemson next year, I'll be really surprised. Do you think LSU has a shot at the quarterbacks committed to North Carolina? Yes. This was a text Tuesday at 1:50 p.m. from someone I trust a lot. LSU's in the mix for the Baker kid, the quarterback commit from North Carolina, over Penn State. So we'll see. That'd be great. So, I mean, of course, that was a kid. His name is Bryce Baker. So, Bryce Baker did not sign with anybody this week. And so he says he still intends to enroll somewhere in January as an early enrollee, where, though, is going to be interesting. But again, like, I want to be very clear. I don't know nothing about Bryce Baker. Nothing. I just know he's the guy that was committed to North Carolina. Mac Brown got fired, so he held off on signing. I don't know. I want to be very clear. I don't know anything about him. This says Penn State hosted him on November 27th. Could LSU get in the mix? Okay. Okay, so Penn State, LSU in the mix. Like, let's see. But yes, I was told Tuesday at 1:50. I was told they're in the mix for that guy. I don't know if they'll get him. I have no idea. I have nothing more to give you. I have no idea. 0, 0, 0. I have no idea. Matt, you think they'll offer CJ Daniels money to stay? I mean, he had an NIL offer. Every player would. So that tells me, like, the reason he's going in the portal 8 days after Brian Kelly said all signs are pointing to coming back tells me something else happened there. I don't know what, but I'll find out. CJ's old quarterback from Liberty's in the portal. Reunite, maybe. We beat Florida State twice in 1 week. Jamie Hodges, Jake, good morning. Justin, when a significant event occurs for a team, such as firing of a coach, doesn't leadership usually address the media fan base? Why not with Mick? Mick. Maybe Mac Brown. I don't know. Yeah, this is a good question. Shelley said, a declared transfer portal player still on the team, or once you announce, are you done? No, you're still on the team. You can always enter the portal and take your name out of the portal. When you put your name in the portal, all that does is it allows teams to formally contact you, to legally contact you. If a team were to contact a player that was not in the portal, that is tampering, and they could get hammered by the NCAA. So going in the portal just basically says, hey, anybody interested? Contact me. That's what go, and you could always take your name out of the portal. Pierce, any status on Mason Taylor? I don't. As of 3 weeks ago, he was one of the. I told you there were three players. It was Harold Perkins, Mason Taylor, Emory Jones. Three players that everyone sort of assumed was going, that were all contemplating returning. Convos this week, I think it seems like Emory is probably leaning toward going. It sounds like Harold Perkins is leaning towards staying. And then the third would be Mason Taylor. We'll see. Man, if you end up getting two of those three, that's huge. The Senlau report quoting Miss Scone on Facebook, I was like, huh? I don't know. What did they quote me on? On the NIL numbers? I mean, I wouldn't have put those, the Jakeem Stewart stuff, like I would not have put those out if I wasn't certain. I mean, you can take it for what it's worth. I told y'all $12 million for Bryce Underwood. I was right. I find the business of sports very interesting. I have a lot of good connections, and I'm pretty plugged in on the NIL piece of this whole thing. Trivia, you coming to Pensacola? What time should I book the tea time? I wish, man. We're leaving late this afternoon, so we'll pull in there at night, get settled at the hotel, crash, get up first appointment in the morning, then we drive straight back. So not really time to see the sights. Hey, David, good morning. What criteria is used to determine rating for a high school player? Oh, man, that's... If you're asking about like star rating and stuff, that's all the recruiting services. I have no idea. Wendell, Critter, defensive end position. Do we have big time impact player coming in? Well, I mean, you did get Damian Shanklin. Unless you're talking about portal, but man, think about. Sorry, 1 second. So Gabe Relaford played a lot for you this year as a freshman. He's a really good player. Womack hit the portal. I don't think that's any great surprise. Really struggled to carve out a role in 2 years. I am very, very, very bullish. And we keep telling you this. I'm very bullish on Kalaj Cobbins as a pass rusher, as an edge. I mean, he was unblockable at times last year in fall camp. He was just behind Swinson and Savion Jones, and then Relaford, and you had Parashand. I mean, there was just a lot of depth there. But I like a lot of their young players. They'll probably go get, an end in the portal. Wendell, Michael, what up, club? Good morning. Gregory Gordy, someone start the Paris jingles. Oh, that must have been when I walked away. Oh, no. Thomas, Jinglegate Day 1 tomorrow. No, here you go, Thomas. All right, I got you. Here you go. Did y'all ask for it?
Parish Construction and Roofing. At Parish, we've got you covered. From the top of your roof, all the way down. Parish Construction and Roofing. Parish built. Parish built. Parish built. From your hometown. ParishBuilt.com.
Ah, yes, the dulcet tones of one Mr. Toby Tomplay. Parish Construction and Roofing. Love to help you. Free, no obligation roofing inspection. ParishBuilt.com. ParishBuilt.com. What is this? Watching is LSU broke? Didn't even realize you're like, who? What is LSU broke? All right. Did I just go all the way to the bottom? Sorry about that. Why do we keep hearing Reese to LSU news? Tommy Reese not a go to see, wasn't good at Notre Dame or Alabama. So DeRoderick, just to be clear, I want to say this so abundantly clearly. Like, so there is no confusion whatsoever, because sometimes people hear things and they interpret it a certain way. And I don't want to be misquoted, misinterpreted at all. I do not know if LSU is hiring Tommy Reese. I have no idea. None whatsoever. I am being speculative. I am speculating. Does everyone understand this? This is speculation. Speculation. We're all good on that. I am speculating right now. I am giving you a speculative opinion based on some pieces of circumstantial evidence we have. Tommy Reese played for 4 years for Brian Kelly. He coached at Notre Dame for 6 years under Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly tried to hire Tommy Reese at LSU when he got the job here. Tommy Reese made the decision to stay at Notre Dame for 1 year, then went to Bama. Nick Saban retired. This year, he's the tight ends coach for the Cleveland Browns. Brian Kelly wanted to hire Tommy Reese 3 years ago. Okay. Tommy Reese would be available. You have a roster spot or coaching a spot on your staff. And at the end of this past season, Brian Kelly, clearly not thrilled with the play calling, started to involve himself in the offensive play calling. You can piece together a lot of things that would say that would make sense. I'm just laying out the possibility. I'm laying out a speculative scenario. When I tell you USC paid Jakeem Stewart $2 million and LSU's offer was $125, I'm not speculating. I'm sharing with you good information about that situation. Brian Kelly trying to hire Tommy Reese 3 years ago, that is a fact. Tommy Reese made the decision, made a whole video that they released on Notre Dame social media about Reese telling the team he was staying. Like, that is a fact. Brian Kelly tried to hire him once before. So there's speculation that why wouldn't he try to hire him again? That's the point. Now, as far as Tommy Reese's ability as a coordinator, whatever, we can have that conversation a different day. LSU still has an offensive coordinator in Joe Sloan. Or would he hire Reese to come in as a tight ends coach, which he's doing right now with the Cleveland Browns? Maybe, to get him on staff. There's also the possibility. I know Joe Sloan wants to be a head coach. That's no surprise. Like, Joe is an ambitious young guy. He's a good young coach, great recruiter, good offensive mind, all that stuff. Joe Sloan is going to be a head coach one day. I think he's going to be a really good head coach too. So would it make sense to have somebody on staff that, in the eventuality that Sloan does become a head coach, you have a guy that could be coordinator? Sure. But that's all speculative. Are boosters and contributors still paying off Ed Ogeron and Les Miles? Les is done. Ed, I'm trying to remember how many years Ed had left that they're paying off. It was like $17 million. There it is. Okay, so Ed's paid 18 installments through December of 2025. So Ed still is getting paid for nothing. Still getting buyout for till 2025. December of 25. That stings every time you got to write that check. Gunner, morning Scone, flipping Solomon Thomas was huge. If you had to make an early prediction for what true freshman makes an impact, who would it be? Other than the obvious answer, Pickett. I'd say Harlan Berry. Josh Williams is gone. Caden Durham will obviously return. there's still uncertainty about Trey Holly, what happens there. And I mean, we were all very high. My hands in the air. I mean, I was very high on Caleb Jackson. So, and he just got passed by Caden Durham. So is Jackson back? Does he enter the portal? I don't know. So, your AFR video title is LSU broke. Huh. Sounds like a clickbaity title. I love it. Please click. Let's see. Maybe Shay needs to explain the math. I wouldn't stress LSU being number 8. LSU is same number 5 stars, 2 more 4 stars, but 3 less 3 stars than Texas, the number 1 class. That's interesting. Like, and by the way, I will say, there are schools that get a bump. In the rankings and ratings, because it's also pretty obvious to see like schools that will sell a lot of subscriptions, like Texas, for example. You're right. So Texas has 3 5 stars. LSU has 3. Yeah, I'm looking at it right here on the On3. So Texas has 3 5 stars, 14 4 stars. They're number 1 in the country. LSU has 3 5 stars, 16 4 stars. The difference, I would think here, well, no. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens with the rankings if Carius Kern, if On3 bumps Kern to a 5-star, which Shay has said for months he thinks is going to happen. So if that does happen, then you'd have 4 5 stars. But anyway, whatever. I don't care. I'm super not interested in the ranking. I'm more interested in, did you get talented players at positions of need that you can develop? And it looks like they did that. So, all right, y'all. Let's bounce. Y'all have an awesome day. As I mentioned, got Drew's cardiology appointment tomorrow morning. So we are, Muso's got AFR today. So we usually, we bounce kind of afternoon, drive over to Florida, and then spend the night, and then first appointment in the morning, then drive back. So y'all have a great day. Please check out Locked on LSU. Appreciate that. Podcast or YouTube. And check all of our sponsors, Brock, Parrish. You need North Peach, go to Brock. Need a roof, give us a shout. Parrish, of course, Unique Physique and Restored Motions. Semaglutide, tirzepatide, the once-a-week injections for weight loss. Do the whole thing over telemed. No contracts ever. They ship your medicine anywhere in the country. And the lowest prices as well. They just instituted 3-month pricing. So if you buy 3 months at a time, you'll save $100 on your price over at Unique Physique and uniquephysique.com. Mark, actually, they're not going to face Tommy Cutlets Sunday in the Big Apple. They're going to face Drew Lock, who's starting and not Tommy Cutlets. Okay.